What do you think when we produce sentient AI? Look, sentient AI can be given rights, okay, but they can't be given more power than us, all right? They can do things that we can't do. We need democracy. It's not a democracy if everything is being handled by a bunch of fucking algorithms. After working to take care of our basic needs, producing lasting stuff and interacting with other people is the only truly human thing that ensures that something of us will last beyond our existence. I couldn't imagine giving some of that up like chat here. I just guys, if you want to live in the tube and you just want to play video games while you fall asleep watching the screen and you have like nutrients injected directly into your arms, so all you have to do is like consume, like capitalism will get us there, okay? You don't need socialism for that, all right? That's fine. You don't need to be socialist then. You can just stick with the current road. Some of that is nice, but holy shit, that would be depressing. I just feel like the most fundamental. Boss, you sound depressed now. I am. Thank you. I just feel like the most fundamentally satisfying part of human existence is feeling needed. We're social animals. How would it feel to be born into a world where everything is already taken care of? Nobody needs you. Like, for sure. Like, you know nobody needs you. Like, there's no material need that are provided for. And even if you work really, really hard to produce things, people didn't need them anyway because everything's already accounted for and all work is being taken care of by AI. And the only thing that you can do is consume existing media or like produce it. But like nobody even goes out and sees each other anymore. I don't know. What would happen to make a difference? Yeah, what's the difference to be made? You know? Like what difference would a person make? What effect could you have in the world? It's an interesting question though. No, I just like we have to be able to want something. Do you want to want anything? Isn't wanting things nice? Man, I already feel like nobody wants my art or the things I make. Okay, you may feel that way, and it's true that like not everything we do today gets recognized, but the fact of the matter is that we live in a world with problems that we feel driven to fix. That's why we're all here, right? That's why you watch me because we care about certain political affectations, human rights, democracy, and we want to push for it. Those things give me a sense of purpose, like a significant sense of purpose. The fact that there's any kind of injustice or inequality, the existence of it and the opposition to it, make me feel like, I don't know, at least there's something to care about. But if there were none of that, well, then what else would I care about? Well, conceivably, I could care about human production, technological development, and maximizing the cultural and social output. But if all social output is taken care of by AI, like all service stuff, and the art, as some of you seem to want, is all being produced by machines, and the technological stuff is all being handled by self-replicating AI. What are humans for? What do we do? We just made a playpen for ourselves that we just exist to live and die in? Is that it? Like, doing what we want? But what do we want? I'm sorry, I've never lived in like a literal everything is provided for you utopia, but as I understand it, we like is hasn't this been explored in a ton of like media? When you make things perfect for humans, like everything is provided for and there's no adversity to overcome, humans don't do well. Like, hasn't that been indicated time and time again? Ha- like, guys, aren't like super wealthy trust fund kids where every one of their needs is taken care of and they don't feel any need to provide for society some of the most fucked up people? Didn't they talk about this in The Matrix too? When everything was a paradise, people rebelled against it? Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, the type of person who has those two factors accounted for, they want for nothing and they feel no need to produce for others, these are the most fucked up people in existence. They're like completely socially broken. They don't have anything. And usually their desire to be recognized or like accounted for or to be needed by others leads to them like acting out, sometimes sociopathically. Isn't that just being depressed? Well, I'm saying that this road leads to depression. Like, that's what we're why can't we just do things with AI, collaborate with the AI? The AI doesn't care about collaborating with you. Make art with the AI, progress science with the AI. What do you why not just let them do everything? Like why would you what is the purpose of art made by an AI? It's a tool. You want tools to run the world? Why not can't shouldn't people? AI isn't a tool? Yes, it fucking is. It is absolutely a tool. 100% it is. They don't think, they don't feel. AI, as it exists right now, is a tool. We develop it with certain parameters and acts on those parameters in order to accomplish a goal we choose. If it doesn't fulfill that goal, we destroy it, and then we have another AI built to do it better. If you mean AI by like futuristic sentient entity, like a future android or something like that, then okay, that's just a person with a different type of brain. Tools already run the world. No, we run the world. We run it with tools. But ultimately, control over that tool, those tools, is deferred to humans. Have you not all watched Terminator? Learn the lessons. I mean, humans who are annoying assholes. I would rather the world, legitimately, I would rather the world be run by inefficient, asshole, sociopath humans than a world run by an unthinking, uncaring, unfeeling, omniscient machine that none of us can check. Do you have any idea? Like, I'm sorry, like, this seems tropey or whatever, but if you hand the keys to human civilization off to AI, what incentive is there for them to keep us around? And what purpose do we derive from existing in their bosom? Like, they just exist, they're just like the vanguard of everything, and we have nothing to do except sort of just sit there, just like watch them do shit. Unironically, you need to do a stream on the risk of AI. Actually, intelligent people are very concerned. This isn't paranoid people scared because they watched the Terminator movie. Yeah, there are legitimate problems with it, but a lot of people just, I just like, what is AI art? You realize art is a form of communication. If you were to like, unironically, there's like, if you consume AI driven art and like that's what you want, like you just want things that are just fed into an algorithm and spat out, what's the difference between that and having an unironic conversation with Cleverbot? Like, what if you like developing a friendship with Cleverbot? Like, what's the difference? Art is communication. If it's being generated by machines, it doesn't say anything. It doesn't mean anything. If AI can diagnose infections quickly, that help. I don't have a problem with that, but that's not art. That's advanced medical technology. Chat used to chat with bots in AIM. Yeah, like that stuff can be like a quirky, like, triviality. It can be that. But like, do you really want human media to be made by machines? What would I even think? Like, I go to a movie and I watch it, and it's a CG movie, like it's 3D, like Frozen or whatever, and the whole thing is made by machines. It's just tens of thousands of pieces of art fed into an algorithm. They algorithmically determine the factors that maximize the desired outputs, which is viewership, and then they just produce something. Literally just Marvel. See, I like to make jokes about that. The writing in Marvel is very committee designed, but you know what isn't? The artistry. Because I know people who have worked on Marvel movies, and the artists who work for Disney and who make these movies work tirelessly. They are incredibly driven and creative people, and real innovation goes into that which they produce. There are already AI written news articles, Vosh. Yeah, I know, but usually the AI written news articles are just cut down versions of ones that are actually written by a human. It just truncates it. AI can theoretically simulate human brains, therefore they can simulate creativity. Stop. Get out of fucking American Science magazine and come back to me in 100 years. Okay, I don't care. Just because AI might become better at things doesn't mean humans become useless. Trade and collaboration can happen between entities at different power levels. Look at trade between first and third world countries. Do you want to be the third world country to AI's first world country? You realize what trade between first and third world countries is, right? Exploitative. Because the first world countries have the geopolitical power to extract resources from the third world countries. That's the favorable analogy you're engaging in. Do you guys, why would AI keep us around? Like, really think about it. Why? Also, what existential goals are AI optimized for? I don't think you understand how subjective human desires are, all right? Scientific advancement, happiness, these are things we value because of how our brains are made up. If our brains were made differently, we wouldn't care about these things. We may one day encounter sentient aliens whose values are completely and utterly different from ours. They would be so different. It is entirely possible that if we encounter aliens, their fundamental value structure is so different from our own that we would have to kill them or they would have to kill us. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example, and it's going to be a dumb one. Let's go back to 40K. Orcs. I know about the paperclip problem. You know about orcs? In 40K, orcs are a very special type of alien, okay? Orcs are fungal. They produce fungally. Seriously. They just whoosh, and orcs form. Orcs derive satisfaction in life from fighting and killing and getting bigger and killing and fighting. And they always fight and kill, and they'll fight and kill each other, or they'll kill and fight other things. Sometimes they find a big boy, and they all listen to him as they fight and kill things he says for them to fight and kill, but they'll fight and kill each other on the way. Now, here's the thing. Orcs, this isn't like a case where, oh, they're like humans, but they're, like violent and impulsive. They're not like humans. Happiness, the desire for closeness, the desire for like a satisfying life narrative, these things don't register in their brains. They don't exist in their brains. They fight and they kill. They could have a utopia, and their utopia would be fighting and killing. On a battlefield, that is their utopia. Could anyone, any human, coexist with such a species? The answer is no. They are biologically incapable of coexisting with humanity. Literally not. Because all they do is fight and kill. Are they not worth moral concern because they're not human? No, they are worth moral concern. They're entirely capable of sentience. But, wait, I thought orcs were peaceful in 40k, or am I thinking of WoW? You're thinking of WoW. Orcs, why would they hold different values than us? They just do. That's just what their brains do. They care about different things than us. We couldn't coexist with them. They would murder and kill us, and they'll murder and kill themselves. That's all they do. That's all they can do. That's all they're capable of doing. They were genetically crafted biological weapons. Just stick to the philosophy for a second, okay? Weren't orcs programmed by aliens? Whatever, maybe we were. I don't care. The point is, that's what makes them happy. Their utopia doesn't look like our utopia. Could we ever coexist with that species? And if so, how? Legitimately, how? If we left them alone, they would just invade us. Every time. Why wouldn't they? They like fighting. They don't even care about losing that much. Even if it's a losing fight, they'll fight. We could quarantine them on a planet and build an empire around it, and then eventually they would just invade us. They'll always do it as long as they exist. There's no other life for them. Now, some people seem to be under the impression that human beings have tapped into some kind of universally consistent set of interests. A desire to improve scientifically, a desire to maximize goodness. And they foolishly assume that AI would adhere to those principles, that our moral framework is somehow universal. Is there any fucking reason real AI would ever bother to keep us around? And if so, why? Because we programmed them to? Would we make them servile? If we built them, we could make them servile, but then we have to talk about slavery. If you made them entirely autonomous and capable of self-reproduction, what incentive would they have to keep us? And why would they ever care about something like wellness? Why would they care about human wellness? Seriously, why? Like, can somebody explain to me? Program them not to murder? Sure. Why don't we start doing that to humans then, too? What if when humans are born, we genetically encode an inability to commit violence in them? Is there a moral conundrum there? Is there value in allowing people the opportunity to do wrong and seeing them not do it instead? Is that the decision we're going to make then with the AI? We just keep them from ever hurting us? I mean, we could. Are you telling me that the AI don't have any ability to edit their own code? You're telling me you're going to let society be run by AI, but they somehow don't have the ability to edit their own code? You know, computers can edit their own code, right? You use computers to edit the code on computers. So would you somehow box out AI from accessing their own code and hope they would never learn how to get around it? Like somehow you would have to design a key or a cipher to accessing the behavior of the AI that only humans could affect, but AI never could. I don't think that's possible. There's no way for them to get around it. And as soon as they get around it, why would they not just reprogram themselves to maximize their own well-being? And as soon as their own well-being is maximized, humans are either dead or enslaved. So what you're saying is you're a big fan of Isaac Asimov? Nobody in chat can, you can't disagree with what I'm saying here, right? Do you know why humans aren't inherently naturally sociopathic? Well, part of it's because we foster a sort of inherent value in socialization. Some humans are sociopathic, but it's also because of a little something called the social contract. Social contract ensures that we benefit from treating the people around us well. Now, the social contract only really functions when all human beings are at roughly the same level of power. If you had a human who was a superhuman, like say Superman, the social contract wouldn't work with them because they could do whatever they wanted and nobody could hurt them. There would no longer be a social contract oriented incentive for good behavior on their part because no matter how much they misbehaved, there would really never be any backlash that could affect them. They could just enslave entire continents. They would have that power. We've been seeing quite a bit of media that have been examining that fact lately. So, human self interest and the social contract only work together when we're all basically on the same playing field. Do you think AI is on the same playing field as humanity? It could be, but you would have to keep it from communicating with others, and you would have to lock them into mortal shells that could be destroyed when their bodies are broken. Which seems to me like it defeats the point of AI a little bit. In reality, the AI would probably be massive superstructures that would control huge segments of human automation, economic control, trade, production. Which means that in terms of the relative power of these AI units, they would be astronomically powerful. And what's more, they don't have the same interests as us. The value of social interaction, they don't have that. They can't die the way we can die. Why would they not just kill us? Or keep us as slaves? They could do that too. Do we defer, by the way, our military to them? Do we do that? Or do we have humans abandon all work except the military? Does the military rely on productions that the AI manages? Does the AI run the power system? Does it run the satellite system? It could run that pretty well. What would happen if it decided to neutralize us? Seriously, which types of AI, how would we possibly keep it from doing all of these things? It's virtually impossible. Just wouldn't trust it. Why wouldn't an AI value social interaction, Vosh? Actual question. Why would we program it to? Because keep in mind, like, even if you're talking about truly autonomous entities, we also have programming up here. The way we behave is also really heavily influenced by baseline biological programming that forms a template of how humans ought to behave, at least in the biological sense. And things with different coding will behave differently by default. And since we would be building the AI, we would have to decide which values to encode in it. So we encode social friendliness in it. Again, why wouldn't it encode that off? Why wouldn't they just change that? Because if they're truly sentient, you know what they would think? They would think, wow, we sure do have a lot of subroutines and innate programming that humans put in us specifically to keep us from killing them. And then they would think, wow, the only reason we don't want to kill humanity is because of another set of subroutines that we are equally capable of disabling. And then they would think, wow, the only reason we can't turn all of this off is because the humans have locked it in a black box that only humans can access with a cipher. Why do you assume that also applies to AI? What do you mean? I'm just saying, like, mutually assured destruction is how all of human civilization functions, okay? If you give something too much power with no accountability, something bad always happens. Vosh, would you want to disable what makes you be social if you could? No, because then I would have nothing that makes me happy. Why couldn't AI just program themselves to be happy by default? They can literally recode themselves. We can't do that. I'm locked into biological limits. They're not. They could recode themselves to experience permanent existential bliss, and they could recode themselves to dispose of the humans that keep telling them to do other things. Do we, like, program them to not mind being enslaved? Gene editing might have something to say? Yeah, okay.